Welcome. Welcome. Stories. The Red Dragon. This happened in a village in province. 8 days before feast of Saint John, Father Michu's wheat had been harvested during the day. Other people of the farm assembled in a common room for the evening meal. After a final cup of punch, the women began some sewing work, and the men lit their pipes and engaged in conversation. Among the assistants was a shy young man with a timid air whom the girls sometimes regarded with a smile, and who never spoke without a bit of hesitation. He showed in brief all the indications of a weak character, of an intelligence of, if not limited, at least somewhat undeveloped for his age, which was nearly 20 years old. His name was Claude Michu, the son of the farmer. So we have a character. His name is Claude Michu. The son of the farmer. It must be said, if Claude had none of the manly assurance, this was because he often faced taunts and quibbles from his comrades. He was used to being the target of ridicule from scoffers, and had long resigned himself to the role of scapegoat that had been imposed on him since childhood. Besides, ugly, spindly, and puny, he could hardly triumph over his destiny, and sometimes he began to think that a single prodigious event might restore his moral value. He had wanted to say a few sweet words to the neighborhood girls, but they had laughed at him. He had started some agricultural experiments, following the data from a special book, but none of these experiences had succeeded. Finally, one might say that Claude was a man pursued by bad luck. Reflecting on it, we would have seen that this alleged bad luck was quite simply due to the wrong influences on the young person's mind, his intellectual weakness, and his great hesitation in all circumstances. But that was not all. Whatever might be the reason, Claude had come to convince himself that he would always be unhappy, always weak, always ridiculed by some, beaten by others, and finally that a spell had been cast upon him. This annoyance was the natural result of the naivety of his spirit. When his spirit entered his brain, he no longer wished to fight the spell of which he was the victim, but to fight it he needed, in his opinion, a lot of courage and audacity, and Claude felt that he was severely lacking in these two qualities. We will see, however, how he decided to revolt against all those setbacks that incessantly swamped him. The evening was coming to an end when the gate of the farm opened and gave passage to a little old man with a strange aspect and bizarre outfit. This old man preferred to be a shepherd, but he was known in the region as a wise sorcerer who at word could change the mountain to the plain and the plain to the mountain by his whim, according to the good women who said this while shaking their heads. The truth was, Simeon, as the sorcerer called himself, was the wily old man living on the credulity of the peasants who stocked his purse with fine crowns and made his income from their foolishness. He was a good companion, cheerful storyteller who knew by heart all the songs and tales of Provence. Simeon was received everywhere with pleasures, perhaps with fear, because of his reputation as a sorcerer, which did not fail to cause fear in the weak brains of the local people. When he appeared at Father Michu's home, the girls, who knew him well and often bought talismans and charms from him, greeted him with pleasure. "Well," cried Madeleine, a pretty brunette whom Claude had loved for a long time and wanted to marry without having the courage to do it. "Well, that is Father Simeon, who will tell us a tale." "I won't refuse, little one," replied the shepherd. "What would you have me recount?" "Tell us a legend of the black hole. It is very interesting and scary." "Yes!" cried all voices. "The legend of the black hole. Fine. Listen to me closely, and do not breathe a word. I do not like to be interrupted." The circle of listeners huddled around Simeon, and the old man began thus. This was the time when Provence was not called so, over 1,000 years ago, and in this country, two brothers lived together with their father in an old castle on the mountain. The first was called Jehan, the other Andre, Jehan and the other Andre. Andre, the youngest, was as mean as his brother Jahan. 𝙰𝚛𝚌𝚑, butchering names from the story, 𝙰𝚛𝚌, was good. Andre left nothing unseen from his evil heart until the day that his old father was at the point of death. The jealousy seized him. He knew that his brother, following the habits of time, was going to inherit all the fortune and all the patronal titles, and that he, Andre, would be no better than the first servant of 𝙰𝚛 in the castle. He quickly resolved to kill his elder brother, and thus say the sole possessor of everything. The sole possessor of everything. One night, while everyone was asleep, he crept slowly to his brother's room, and having thrown himself like a wolf on the ladder, stabbed him in the chest with a dagger. The poor 𝙰𝚛 cried "Ah!" and died. Then a murderer hid himself in his tower and awaited the day. The next morning, when he learned that what had happened, the father of the two young men expired in sorrow. Andre had what he had wished for so much, the fortune and the honors, because no one dared to suspect it. It was believed that 𝙰𝚛 had been assassinated by the thieves who frequented the country. Such was, at least, the rumor that the new lord spread about. As he was rightly feared in his domain, no one dared to contract it. No one dared to contract it. No one dared to contract it. No one dared to contradict him. You believe that he lived a tranquil life, perhaps it happens of many guilty people? It was not to be so. If the justice of men did not reach him, that of God did not fail. A year after the death of his father and brother, on a winter evening, when the wind blew strong amongst uprooted the rocks, Lord Andre was alone in his room. In the day he had received his tenants' rents, and wishing to put them away safely, he had opened the family treasure chest, which was piled up with tons of gold, baskets of diamonds and pearls, large boxes filled to the brim with silver ingots. He contemplated these riches with pride and congratulated himself on the blow that he had made him their master, when he heard an extended sigh at the end of the treasure chamber. His blood froze his veins, and he hardly had the strength to look in front of him. Suddenly a voice called out to him twice, "Andre! Andre!" He ventured his eyes into the end of the room, and suddenly, utterly a cry of terror, his father stood before him, and by his side was the assassinated 𝙰𝚛, still bearing two red holes in his chest, chiseled by Andre's dagger. My father, cried the murderer. Thanks be to God. Thanks. He fell to his knees before the two motionless and menacing specters. The wind outside began to blow, more icy and violent, and the walls of the castle trembled in their foundations. Thanks be to God, repeated the miserable wretch. God has judged you. Your hour has come. The specter of Jahan pronounced slowly. God gave you 1 year to repent, and you have not cursed your crime for that one moment. You must die. Therefore, with all your cursed honors and the ill-acquired riches, and this castle which you have defiled, the two shades attached themselves to the two pillars which supported the room, as they shook them as if to bring down their fruits. The wind redoubled its rage, and the ramparts of the castle trembled under its attacks like weakly planted stalks. This is not mentioned in the Holy Bible at all, and not that I know of, but interesting. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things that's not recorded and documented in the Holy Bible. But that is very interesting. I don't know why it's not in the Holy Bible. And it sounds pretty, something what God would, the Creator, would say. Very interesting. Soon Andre heard the cries of superhuman demons around him. The spirits looked at him with flaming eyes, and suddenly the two pillars fell down. A great rolling sound was heard, and the soul on which the castle stood collapsed. And the towers, the walls, gold, silver, diamonds, and all sorts of riches were engulfed in the earth, along with their unworthy possessor. Where once there was a mountain, now open into a profound abyss. This is what is called the black hole today. The storyteller stopped. Claude Mathieu had been listening with interest, mixed with terror. As for Madeleine, she had not missed a single word of the story, yet she did not declare her curiosity satisfied. Father Simeon, she said, you have not finished. Does one not hear terrible sounds in the region of the black hole? Yes, my child. It is said that on some days the demons make their Sabbath at the place where is buried the body, the castle, and the treasures of Andre and the Fratricide. They also say, don't they? Replied Madeleine. That many people want to conjure the spirits of the black hole and search for the hidden treasure? That many people want to conjure the spirits of the black hole and search for the hidden treasure? That is true. But it is said no one have succeeded. One might venture, Claude timidly, conjure the demons and appropriate the treasure they have guarded. Wait, one might, ventured Claude timidly, conjure the demons and appropriate the treasure they guarded? No doubt, said Madeleine, but for that he must be very learned and courageous as such. It should be anyone but you who should go to the black hole, my poor Claude. Claude did not reply to Madeleine, but questioned once again the sorcerer. Oh, on which days do we hear those sounds of the devil's Sabbath? On Christmas, All Saints' Day, during the night of St. John, replied Simeon, who had a malicious look on his face at the sight of his credulous listener. The feast of St. John? That is in 8 days, murmured Claude. What else, Master Simeon, must one do to conjure the demon and possess the treasure? You want to know too much too soon, my little child. This knowledge has a high cost, and one may still not fathom what is needed. Saying so, the shepherd closed his eye in a wink, as if to say, I know all this myself, and yet I'm not proud. The willy player had sniffed out in Claude Michel, an easy dupe, and at any event he was preparing his ground. Meanwhile, Claude, who was timid by nature and afraid of being taunted by his comrades, felt braver when he thought and acted alone. If he possessed the treasure of the black hole, Claude believed he would suddenly win the appreciation and respect of all men, and smiles of the girls, and thanks to the strength of wealth, he would be forever rid of that ridiculousness that prevented him from confessing his love for Madeleine, and be able to ask for her hand. For the first time in his life he felt the courage and resolutionness to venture on the terrible ordeal of which Simeon had spoken. For that he needed to gain the confidence of the old wizard, and introduce him, even at a high price, the secret of conjuration which would render the demons of the black hole submissive to his desires. This demonstrates the extent of credulity, the lack of reasoning, that a man can be pushed to an unkind, swindling notions. Excuse me, I don't look like nouns. My eyes are acting strange. That could be pushed by adventurers such as Simeon on the good beast of the ilks of Claude Michel. When the shepherd left the farm, it was 10 p.m. in the evening. He was at the foot of a sunken road leading to the first slopes of the mountain where he had constructed his hut, when he heard behind him a call to stop. Good, he mused while pausing. The history of the treasure has produced the desired effects. The desired effect. There is my fine man. There is my fine man. Simeon was not mistaken. Almost instantly, he heard the breathless voice of Claude behind him. Father Simeon! Father Simeon! Is that you? Claude, my boy? Asked the sorcerer with a false note of astonishment. I wanted to speak with you, Father Simeon, and I did not want to speak in front of everyone. I have followed you here. I wanted to speak with you, Father Simeon, and I did not want to speak in front of everyone. I have followed you here. Well, explain yourself. It is very difficult. Come, are you afraid? Well, I will spare you the difficulty of speaking. I'll tell you what you want from me. You, whispered Claude, already terrified of the sharp insight of the old shepherd. Although it was easy enough to explain after what had happened. As an evening affair, me, repeated the old man in a solemn tone. Listen, you know that I deal with these terrible sciences unknown to most men. The history of the treasure of the black hole tempts you, and you come to me to know the secrets that will assure you its possession. How do you know that? I know everything that I choose to discover. I can do anything I desire, my boy, replied the sorcerer, adopting a graver tone. So you would consent to teach you the art of conjuration of demons? Yes, if you have the courage, but not if you are afraid. I will not be afraid, but you do not look like a brave man. It does not matter. When there is nothing to see to intimidate me, I feel able to do anything. So much the better, because what you have to do must be done alone. What should be done? Gently, my boy, do you have any money with you? I have a small amount. Good, because without the nothing is possible. For the conjurations, you see, you must procure first objects that are not free. Then I have my own secrets, and they are worth something to you, I believe. I hear you loud and clear, all in good time. Well, as it is late tonight, I have much to tell you. Go to sleep quickly. Tomorrow night, come find me on the mountain, and I will teach you what is to be done. Simeon started on his path. Again, Claude returned to the farm, his heart beating fast and feeling agitated at the audacious enterprise that he was undertaking. Well, I hope you enjoyed the stories from this book. Hello, Exploring Harley. I'm going to end the story